Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Identity Insights by Indicio. I'm your host, Tim Spring, and we have something a little bit different for you this week. A few of our Indicio team members are on site at IIW, or Internet Identity Workshop, and we'll be bringing you up-to-date coverage of the week's events. Please bear with us as they are on site, and there could be some audio dips or static on the line, but we will do our best to bring you the latest from the conference. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Hello, everyone. Today I'm joined by Indicio's software engineer, Char Howland. Thanks for joining us today, Char. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on today, Tim. I'm a software engineer at Indicio. My focus is mainly on in the Hyperledger Aries and Indy space, especially for me on Aries Cloud Agent Python, developing plugins and other purpose-built agents and protocols. I'm also involved in the open source community as co-chair of the Hyperledger Indy Contributors Working Group, as well as the Identity Implementers Working Group.
All right, awesome. And so I understand today was day 2 of IIW. For those unfamiliar, could you give us a brief rundown of what IIW is?
Yeah, absolutely. IIW stands for the Internet Identity Workshop. Happens twice a year in Mountain View, California, and it brings together everyone who works in the digital identity space. It's a unique conference in that it is a open space unconference format where there's no agenda or keynote speakers set ahead of time. So we set the agenda for the conference each of the 3 days. So it's a really participatory and organic process. And I really like how the structure of the conference mirrors the open source and decentralized nature of the work that we do. So this is my first time here at the conference, so it's fun to be absorbing and taking in as much information as I can, and meeting lots of people whose names I've seen around GitHub and on community calls. So it's great to meet people in person.
No, that's awesome. That sounds very cool. So, right, let's jump right in. And what were some of the most interesting sessions or topics that you got to hear about today?
Yeah, there were lots of great sessions today. Stephen Curran gave a session on revocation. So this refers to the ability to revoke a credential, make it invalid if I were to try to present it to a verifier, whether that is that it has expired or needs to be updated, or whether I'm no longer authorized to hold that credential anymore. And so we got a walkthrough and comparison of how revocation works in Status List 2021, AnonCreds, let's see, ZK SAM, which stands for Zero Knowledge Signed Accumulator members, and then Allosaur as well, which sounds like a kind of dinosaur, but stands for accumulator with low latency, oblivious, sublinear, anonymous credential updates with revocation. So that was really interesting to hear about. Also went to a session on EIDAS. This is an acronym that stands for Electronic Identification, Authentication, and Trust Services, and it's an EU regulation related to electronic identification in the European single market. So really interesting to hear about recent news on that front, especially with OpenID for verifiable credentials and presentations. What else? I went to a talk on the a recent NIST standard that is related to digital identity guidelines, so super relevant to all of us in this space. And this document presents the process and technical requirements for meeting digital identity management and assurance levels. And so there was an interesting discussion in that session on the idea of applicant representatives and trusted referees. So that's in a situation where a person is unable to present their information, whether they need translation or can't access a computer, or if there's some sort of crisis situation, there needs to be identity proofing of somebody who can vouch for that person. So thinking about the technology there, and it relates to the broader picture of the requirement that when you choose what authenticator you use, you need to consider how disadvantaged populations can access it. Let's see. on a more high-level philosophical side, I also went to a talk on trust as alignment of expectations. And so we talked about different definitions of privacy, how it relates to choice, control, the right to be left alone, freedom from intrusion, and how do these definitions relate to how we interact in the digital world, and how in many cases a privacy violation is due to a misalignment of expectations. And there are some interesting generational dynamics we talked about there, how generations who have grown up with the internet versus generations who have seen it develop within their lifetime might make different assumptions about what is private and what is not in a digital space. So yeah, those are some of the talks I went to. It's been a great mix of really technical sessions and then high-level philosophical discussions.
No, that all sounds incredibly interesting to listen to. I'm not sure if you remember, but would you have any examples of the generational differences of what exactly, someone younger might consider not private versus an older generation?
Yeah, absolutely. The discussion there was that potentially, as a generalization, sometimes older generations might assume that what they're doing on the internet is private, whereas younger generations might assume that it is not. And so what is your default assumption about the privacy in whatever you're doing makes a big difference. Like, is it private until you otherwise know that it is not, or is it public unless you otherwise specify that what you're doing is public? So yeah, interesting discussion there.
Oh, very cool. So I'd be remiss. I know you gave a session of yourself today. Would you mind telling us a little bit about that, how it went, what you were talking about, any questions that stuck with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I gave a talk on Hyperledger Indy today. What's new with the project? So mostly focusing on updates, what's been happening with the Ubuntu 20.04 upgrade, as well as looking to the future, what we have on the roadmap, which includes tombstoning, so making transactions on the ledger unavailable, since you might need to do that occasionally. Supporting overlays capture architecture in Indy. So this focuses on user experience, design, and accessibility, and how do we include that information when a credential is issued or displayed. Another thing on the roadmap is creating observer nodes, also known as read replicas. These are nodes that request and receive transactions on the network, but do not themselves participate in consensus. And so there are some interesting ways there that those could help us solve other problems. Another one is the issue of using firewalls in Indy. There is sometimes an issue with accessing the ledger within certain networks because the port used to talk to the Indy ledger might occasionally be blocked. And so determining a more permanent solution to that issue is on the roadmap as well. So yeah, it was a fun session and interesting to hear people's ideas.
All right. So what are a few key takeaways from today?
Yeah, absolutely. And caveat that there's about 70 sessions each day, an hour long, and as one person being in one place, I can only really go to 6 full sessions a day. But just in thinking high level, I did go to an interesting talk on digital trust in the age of Chat GPT, and there were quite a few other AI related sessions that I wasn't able to go to, but it does seem like AI is a big topic in the space that's being discussed. Let's see, I also enjoyed the demo session as well. So the Animo folks talked about what they're doing with Paradigm, which is a low code builder for SSI solutions where users can create workflows with triggers and actions to integrate verifiable credentials into their specific use cases. As well, their Sierra CLI, which you can use to create invitation schemas, credentials using your own CLI. And then Roots ID as well with their did come V2 Connectathon was really interesting too. So yeah, it was a great day.
All right, very cool. So I find it particularly interesting, especially because it's your first time at IIW. What advice or what would you say to someone who is on the fence about attending the next session?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would really encourage them to come to IIW. It's a really big range of experts and beginners, which I think is really fun. There's a lot of different perspectives, and people who are newer to the space are really encouraged to speak up and ask questions and give their take on things. I think another really cool aspect of the structure of the conference is that you drive your own experience. You can call a session either because you want to give information because you are the expert on a certain topic and you want to share that information, or you can call a session because you want to learn about something and you want the people who know more about it to come to that session and teach you. So I think that's a really unique and cool aspect of the conference.
All right, no, that's very cool. Awesome. Well, thank you, Char. I know you've already had a full day, so I'm going to go ahead and let you go, but appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with us. We'll talk to you
Thank
later.
you so much, Tim.
Thank you for watching. If you at home are interested in verifiable credential technology and you would like to learn more, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and we'll continue to bring you some more educational content. If you have any questions or specific topics that you'd like for us to cover, please go ahead and leave a comment below and we'll be sure to read and address them. Thank you.